And joining me on the line, it's great to welcome back to Flow. It's been a while since we've chatted to them from way out in the west. We have got Shayne and Katey from Scarlet's Way. G'day, guys. How you doing today?
Hey, good. Hey, how you going?
No Eagle Rock, Shayne, okay? Put that guitar away.
The guitar's safely in its case, so there's a piano nearby. I'll see if I can play it on there.
Yeah, you probably would too, funnily enough, but there you go.
Off you go.
Well, we could talk footy, and we were talking footy off air, but we won't. And as long as the West Coast Eagles lose to Port Adelaide, I'm happy. But there you go.
Well, you missed the boat on that one, but that's cool.
We let you win. We let you win. I told you that. So you've got this new song out, and it's got a wonderful dedication. Right, I'm just looking at the video that's just popped up on my screen of it, and you've got this wonderful dedication that to all the people in the arts industry, and I think it's just so important because the arts have certainly been forgotten over the last 12 months, and have seemed way down the agenda item by our federal government, which is so frustrating, and I'm sure you feel that. So, was that part of the reason why you decided to write this song? Was that the impetus for it, or was it just something that you've always wanted to work on?
For sure. I mean, it started really young. Talking about football, I can relate everything back to football. The town I came from in the southwest of WA was very much a sporting town, and the career ed teacher actually played in the league football team. And when the career ed booklets come out where you could choose your job when you got older, I said I wanted to be a musician, and he sort of looked at me strangely, and then the class laughed. And I was 15 years old, and I'd already been gigging professionally in pubs for a year at that point. Yep. So saying you're a musician or involved in the arts industry as a greater spectrum is always kind of met with this, really? You guys get paid for that sort of approach?
Yep.
So it started way back there, and teaching guitar to students and parents sort of saying, oh, my kid's going to do something, going to do a real job, stuff like that. It's always played on my mind. And then the pandemic hit, and seeing a lot of industries, very much the creative industries, take a massive hit. And everyone, it was so frustrating to see. We were lucky being a duo for a lot of our gigs. We could get back on the horse pretty quickly and start earning some money. But a lot of our friends that were in show bands, corporate bands, wedding bands, stuff like that, really took a massive hit. And they were met with well, just go pick fruit, or just go do something else. And it's just not that simple, It's kind of an identity for a creative. It's in their blood, and you can't really shake that. So it's not just financial; it's kind of everything we are. And to have that taken away was demoralising.
I totally understand where you're coming from there when you said about the picking fruit, because I spoke to an artist who had that said to them, and they said, but I've got kids that are going to school that I'm now homeschooling, and they just, that was their life, that it was what they did on the weekends. But they couldn't just go, well, let's uproot the family and let's go and do it, because their kids are in school, and you've got commitments into where you're living. It's not just that you play on the weekend. There are other things that you do. There are other aspects to your life and your partner and what they're doing as well. So it really is. It's a very condescending thing to say, but also shows the lack of respect and understanding that I think a lot of the population have for the arts, that they're happy to go see a show, they're happy to go and be there and be entertained, but they don't think about what goes on to create that.
Yes, for sure, and that's another frustrating thing as well throughout the pandemic, is when everyone was in lockdown. I guess if you could told people, hey, you can't watch Netflix, hey, you can't read a book, you can't watch music online, listen to it online, then where would you be?
Yeah.
A lot of very mentally fatigued people without any entertainment. So the entertainment industry, it's funny, that's the first thing that's gutted. But during those lockdown times, if you took the entertainment away from everybody, I mean, it would have been insane.
A sad world.
Yeah, well, music was good for me because I was working on my own for a lot of it. And I was lucky because I was listening to a lot of new music. So to me, it was my way of dealing with everything. That I never felt alone because I had all these different artists, and like yourselves and others, that I would just put it on, and it felt like, well, for the next 3 or 4 minutes, you're with me. We're keeping each other company. That's how it felt for me. So I know how important it is, and it is. It's great. It's just one of those things for our mental health, and sure. I think people just overlook it and they think, oh, you're being a bit silly and frivolous. But no, it's the arts are such a meaningful part to our whole way of life that it does get overlooked.
And I don't judge people as individuals. I judge society as a whole. I think it's unfair to sort of assume that people would know the amount of hours that it takes to learn an instrument well. It starts when you're a kid, and it goes all the way through. You don't just get good at this thing in a couple of years, So they're unaware, and that's fine. I think it needs to start at the top, like you said, with government and places like that, sort of having a bit of respect and understanding and promoting how much work goes into it. So maybe we can be held on the same pedestal as AFL players in a way. I understand that, bums on seats gives you money, and, they can fill a stadium of 80,000 people and they deserve their pay for that reason. But just to have some sort of respect and let people know that it is a viable career choice and it does take a lot of effort.
And there's a huge amount of career choices within it. At the end of our clip, it's like we only touched on how many jobs it creates, throughout the country.
There are so many people. It has such an impact that it's measured against our GDP. And when you take that away from the GDP, what's the next thing the government's going to do? Start raising taxes to recoup a lot of that money. So that's why we need to generally understand the importance of the arts to not just to our community and to each other, but to our economy. And I think it's very well said what you've got here. That contributes $14.7 billion to the Australian GDP, our gross domestic product. $14.7 billion. It's a figure I cannot fathom, but that's the significance of it. So good on you for stating that.
Yeah, and relating it back to finance and money is a way that you can get to the general population that understand that that's how the world turns for them. They've got to pay bills. So putting a dollar value on it is definitely a way to sell it. But to try and go even deeper than that and say that it's someone's identity and passion and livelihood, and when an artist releases a song, it's like their child. It's to say that it's you're that invested in it. If someone can measure the emotional attachment by that statement, then they'll get an idea of how important we see it.
Well, another way of understanding it, and it's going overseas, is that Elton John, or Sir Elton, has come out saying that way the Brexit deal is done, that the UK artists won't be able to perform through a lot of European countries because they have to have different passports and different visas for each one, and it suddenly becomes very cost prohibitive. So there is the impact that we need the arts, and we need to make things a bit easier. So it's a bit of a side issue, and I just wanted to get Sir Elton John mentioned in the same conversation with you guys, and I managed to do that.
Hey.
And I could have mentioned Eagle Rock and that you would master on the piano in less than 2 years.
It's great.
Yes, I'm sure it is. Now, what else is going on with you guys? You got this song, and before we get to hear it, but what else is going on with you out in the West? So I gather you're doing lots of gigs and that. With the way things are, some borders are still getting open and shut almost on a daily basis, but are you able to tour and travel around? What's going on?
Yeah, it's been a bit up and down. There's times when we were writing songs during this whole thing, and we were inspired some days, and then other days we were just thinking, man, are we actually going to ever get to play this song for a crowd, which is a bit of a downer. But we've started recording an album over here, so we're probably halfway through recording that. And we've booked accommodation for Tamworth, so we did that last year and it got cancelled, but this year we've got all of our fingers and toes and everything crossed.
Yeah, we love touring and travelling more than anything to do with music. It's one of the real perks of the job. So we're looking at getting out and doing a tour of backing onto Tamworth and spending a bit of time on the East Coast and getting over your way, basically. So hopefully we can make that happen because, WA especially has always been the far end of nowhere. And having this happen and borders closing down and stuff like that, it just literally feels like we're our own country over here, which it can be frustrating when you like travelling as much as we do.
I think that's the way the rest of Australia views WA, isn't it? That, you're another country and you're better off way over there and away from us.
It's frustrating because not all of the WA public think that way. And when this thing hit and there are a lot of the pitchfork wielding people over here that were like, close the borders and keep them out, that it was frustrating to see that and just go, man, they already think we're in a different country. The last thing we need is to alienate the East more. We kind of like it over there. So, if we can get back out on the road, we'd love to do that.
I lived and worked in WA for a couple of years, and I remember the saying about the eastern snakes, as they refer to the eastern states, and I thought, I'll never forget that. Yeah, the eastern snakes.
Oh, wow.
I've never heard that before.
You've never heard it?
Oh, my God.
Yes, that was that was a common thing. It was, those people in the eastern snakes. And I went, what? Oh, the eastern states, I get it. So it makes sense to me. So it's interesting.
Good,
now, I need to ask you a question. I'm reading in your bio, and I circled this to make sure I asked you, and I've asked many an artist who I read in their bio has done this, and that's performing at the iconic Bluebird Cafe in Nashville. So can you please tell me what that experiences were like and how it came about?
So we're over there for Americana Fest, in Nashville for a couple of months, and we were lucky enough that Sound of Australia took us over as part of the bill. But we were a late inclusion on the bill, so we didn't have many shows. We were just sort of part of their marketing campaign and their playlists and stuff like that. But while we were over there, we went to the Bluebird and put in an application to play, and somehow we got in. So we got out there, and it's just, if you've been before, it's kind of a little room, and it's got
in the middle of nowhere as well.
It's middle of like a shopping centre kind of place in. And but it's so famous for everybody that's taken to that stage, you know. So, you know, the photos on the wall of you know, Chris Stapleton and Taylor Swift and all these sort of people. So we played our song, and I remember thinking it was dead silent. There was about 70 people in the room, all sitting close to each other because there was no COVID. And if I remember thinking, if I dropped my guitar pick on the floor, I reckon I would have heard it hit the carpet. It was so quiet in there. And coming from other gigs where, you know, you play over pool cues and pool balls hitting each other, that was a big difference. So it was an amazing experience, really.
That's what I hear. And for anyone that I've asked, what was it like, and they suddenly go to absolute clarity as to that experience. So it is a treasured thing that, and I'm glad you shared it with us. So thank you for doing that. And the Bluebird Cafe, must go there. It's on the list of places to go. So must go there.
Yeah, it was definitely on our bucket list.
Well, if you mentioned you're working on an album, is that going to be out this year or next year? What's going on with that?
It's all kind of set in jelly at the moment. Everything moves around, but it'll be next year, I'd say. We've got another 2 singles that we've recorded and mixed and mastered, and they're pretty much ready to be released. So we've got to pick a date for another single at least. And I think it'll be one more single than the album, I think is the plan we've got. So the next single will be out later this year, and then the album hopefully for summer next year. That would be ideal. But we should wriggle because it goes to artwork and photos and planning and, you know, all that sort of stuff that goes with it.
Yes, and making sure the West Coast Eagles emblem's in there somewhere, I'm sure.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great idea.
I didn't think
like
of
a Where's
that.
Volley kind of thing. Great,
I'm not supposed to be giving you ideas like that. Well, there you go. I'm sure it's going to appear there now because it's been mentioned. You have to do it. You can't get away from it now.
I think we're going to need to do it. Yeah. Special edition vinyls with some Eagles logos.
Yes, it could be in blue and yellow vinyl. That could be a way of doing it. Well, Shayne, Katey, it is great chatting to you as always. I'll look forward to it, and thankfully this time no Eagle Rock, but thankfully I'll be chatting to you again about your new single, and I'll look forward to chatting about the album as well when that comes up. But we've got your new single here ready to go. It is one that I urge everyone to just sit back and have a listen to this song. It is for the arts industry. It's a great song, and if you could please introduce it for us, and thank you so much for spending time with us today on Flow.
Just before you go, close.
Some people take 2 years to master the piano. Someone else takes 2 minutes.
Thanks so much for having us. This is Shayne and Katey from Scarlet's Way.
You're listening to Flow FM, and this is our new single, Ride On.
He opens up the door, he walks down the street with black gloves on his hands and velvet to his feet. He's been here before, years, married to the songs he sings, dreaming for something big and pouring his heart into everything. Don't have a family with no need for security. The stars in her eyes, bright lights and neon signs. She grew up at 17, the tales of all the things she's seen. A long way from home and going it alone. We passed the every drunken bar and brawl, you can bet he's seen them all. And play till last call. Oh yeah, he joked that one day he'd have dreamed his life away when love